Okay. I think everything looks right. Okay, so here we are. Last day that this class meets officially. I guess technically we meet at the final, but most of you probably won't show up because you've already have finished the final exam. So here's how things are going to go from here on out is basically as soon as this class ends, I'm going to create your practice test. After the practice test, you will have the actual test, and then you're done. The actual test has to be turned in by the final exam time, but that's just when it will be due. So if you want to know when that is, just look at when it's due, and that's when you have to have it done by. You can't take too long. I can't give extensions on that stuff, but that's kind of where we're at. We looked last time. We did rational equations solving, and that's the end of the course. That's everything. So we wrapped up everything last time. This time, I will be releasing your practice test today. And meantime, in class, I can go over any questions that you have about stuff, right? So homework questions would be great. Questions about how the course is going to wrap up, like the mechanics of how the course works and when you're supposed to do what. We can talk about that, making sure you have everything in on time. The dates for late homework are either today or tomorrow. So I think they're probably today for most of those dates. They're all a little bit different, I think. But I think the 7th is your last day to do late work, right? That way I can start putting the grade books together so that as soon as your final exam comes in, I'll just calculate that last little bit and then submit grades. So that's just kind of where we're at. There's not really a ton left to talk about. In fact, I suspect that before too long, I'll actually just shut down the YouTube stream, and anyone who wants to ask me questions directly can hop over to the Zoom meeting. But if you're on YouTube right now and you have a question and it's not too complicated, feel free to throw it into chat and I can try to answer that question for you. Now, if it's super complicated, then we might have to have a discussion in Zoom just because, text chatting back and forth, pretty basic messages that you can send back and forth in that way. But if you have a simple question, go ahead, throw it in there. If you have a more complicated question, probably want to hop into Zoom and I'll help you out. But at this point, that's where you're at. Finish any homework assignments that are due. I think there's a number of homework assignments due tomorrow. So finish those up. And then the late homework, let's take a look. Let me double check. I don't want to expose anyone's grades, but let's just make sure if I can go into them. I think most of the late homework is due today, but I think for a few of the assignments you can still turn them in tomorrow. Let's see. It looks like at least a couple of them have a due date for the late work of tomorrow, but not all of them do. There's a few that have today as that late day. Okay, so don't count on having tomorrow to do any more late work, but if those happen to be the assignments that you have left to work on, you might be able to get some more done tomorrow in those cases. So that's the situation with that. Late work, we're at the end of the semester. Late work is due. For some of these assignments, you've had months to work on them late. There's really no reason at this point to still be working on them late. Everything is due tomorrow, so the homeworks that are due tomorrow, there's just no time to have you continue to work on those late. So that's not doable. This last set of homeworks for this last chapter is just due tomorrow, right? There's no late option to work on these past a certain date. So make sure you get your homework in. If you still have old assignments that are late, I know some people are like, half credit, forget that. But half credit can be the difference between you passing and not passing, right? If you start looking at homework averages, zeros pull your grade down a lot, right? So for instance, if you have one homework assignment that you got 100% on, We'll just simplify this down to 2 homework assignments. Let's say you have one homework assignment you got 100% on, and then the other homework assignment you weren't able to do for whatever reason. And then you said, well, I can only get half credit on this. Forget that. I'm not doing it. Well, then the average of those 2 homework assignments is a 50%, which is an F. Okay? Or you go, well, I have this one homework assignment I got 100% on, and the second one, I know I'm only getting 50%, but that's better than a 0, so you do the 50%. The average of those 2 homeworks is now 75%, which is passing, right? So, you know, there's a lot of psychology that goes on with students sometimes, and students a lot of times are their own worst enemies because for certain students, not all of them, but you're kind of biased to wanting to do less work. Not you that I'm talking to, but just some students. There's a subgroup of students. They'll err on the side of doing less work. But that's not really what being a student is about. That doesn't really lead to successful student outcomes, right? Looking at it and going, darn, I missed the chance to get 100% on this assignment, but, you know, or these few assignments. But if I can still get 50%, that's going to help me a whole lot better than a 0. So if you have any 0s, go back, spend some time on those. Not only is it going to help you get ready for the final, but the 0s just kill you when it comes to averages. 0s are rough. A 50% isn't great, but it's way, way better than a 0, right? So that's a nice way to pad your grade. Also, it's going to be helping you getting ready for the final. And the truth is, if you've been working hard this whole semester, when you go back and look at those older assignments, you might just know how to do them now because, you know, you've been sticking with this stuff and learning it. And a lot of you have learned stuff, even though you haven't done those kinds of problems for a few weeks or months. You know, because you've been working on this mathematics, that older stuff is starting to make sense to you. So it might not even take you that long. And then you can significantly raise your homework grade. Now, most of you have pretty good homework grades so far. I got to say, this is a good class. This is a motivated class. I suspect that's, you know, sort of the nature of the class being the hybrid El Camino Ventura College type class. It seems like students are very motivated and doing a lot of good work. So that's great. Congratulations to all of you. You're on the right track. And when you get to, you know, when you're taking your college level math classes here in the near future, you know, I expect that most of you will do quite well. Don't let the people around you make you lazy. So when you see other people, you know, starting to do things in classes that, you know, they're skipping homework and not showing up and stuff like that. Don't do that. Just keep doing what you're doing, which is doing the homework. Mostly people in this class are doing their homework on time. They're, you know, when in this class, when there was something that someone was confused about, they emailed me and we took care of it quickly. Those are all the great kind of student behaviors. So keep those. Keep doing those when you once you leave El Camino with the classes you have left. You can just keep the good habits, right? These habits are not, a lot of these habits you develop as a student are also deciding what type of habits you're going to have as an adult, right? And if you hope to have a good job, then, you know, you can't just be this lazy person that does as little work as possible and is always trying to get out of work. And if no one's looking, I'm not going to do that. And if I can get away with not doing my job, I'm not going to do it. Like, that's how you end up not getting promoted in a job and ending up with a good salary. So the reality is a lot of these lessons that you are learning now about being good students are also the things that are going to mean that you're going to be higher wage earners once you got into the real world, as long as you keep those habits and don't get suckered into developing bad habits from the people that you see around you. Okay, great question. How do we check our homework grade? Homework's tricky for now. It gives me a different view than it gives students. So off the top of my head, I don't recall exactly how it sums it up. But until all the homework's due, homework grades are weird anyways, because I'm just trying to I'm giving you the explanation as to why this is a much more complicated question than it might seem like. It seems like it's obvious. Well, can't I just look and it tells me a percent? My guess is, yeah, but it's a different screen than what I see. But a lot of times I know students have a misunderstanding of what their homework grade is, because they don't understand, why would you understand how these homework assignments report overall homework grades. So most of these softwares have two settings. I can set it to either ignore assignments that aren't due yet, or that, and it's not even that aren't due yet, it's that you haven't attempted yet. Or I can set it to calculate every homework score, whether it's been due or not. And both of those are misleading, because what will happen is if I have it only grade homework assignments you've worked on, then what happens is a student can do one assignment, get 100%, and then their average just says they have 100%, even though they haven't done like 20 homework assignments, right? So that's misleading and makes students think they're doing much better than they're doing. That's not good. Or the one that I usually go with says grade every homework assignment that's hit a due date, let's see, how does it for Delta Math? I forget how they do it in Delta Math, but then what will happen is it gives you zeros for homework assignments you haven't done yet, right? So the overall homework grade is a little bit misleading, but you should be able to go into it. Now, let's see. I don't want to show this in case I accidentally show a grade book while I'm in here. When I go into my student view, it doesn't give me the grade book student view. It only gives me like how it shows you what homework assignments are upcoming. Like you've seen me show that screen on class when we talk about it. If I look up grades or I look up assignments, no, what I want is, see, I'm doing this off to the side so I don't accidentally show anyone's grades, because I think the screen I want is also the one that shows grades, I think. Let's see. We're the Math 1 class, right? So we want to... let me see. They kind of changed. They changed since last semester when I had to do final grades. They've changed the layout a little bit, so I gotta see. Here we go, grade table. So for me, it shows a grade table, but that's for all students. And then it's got your average listed there. And I have to go through and double check that I have all my settings right. Looks like many of you, almost everyone has at least 70% on the homework. Got some person sitting at 69%, so just missing the 70% cutoff. And then there's one, that person probably checked out a while ago. It's like half the homeworks were done. So the answer is I don't know what the view looks like for students, unfortunately. It doesn't allow me to go in and figure out what it looks like, but it would be in Delta Math. So there should be something at the top that shows you your overall homework grade. Does somebody know what it's called? If there's anyone in Delta Math and you know what the thing is called, the thing I'm looking at is called grade table. But I would think from your point of view, it gives you some kind of list of your grades, but I haven't seen it. Anybody? Can anybody help us out here? No, nobody knows how it works. There should be a point at which on there you can go in and look at your grades. In fact, I think if you look on your main page or whatever, it should show you what assignments you have on each, or your percentages that you have on each assignment. I don't know what it looks like. Let me see. Let me double check. I can't do this. I don't think I can. sample student page for Math 1. I go in here. Yeah, so it'll tell me my assignments with like scores and stuff. Like it looks like this. So this is the sample student page. So it shows me like the past 2 assignments and what I got on them. But it doesn't, I don't believe there's a... Oh, well, this will tell you also quickly. It looks like it splits it up to the things that have no late credit available and things that have late credit available. So, like if tomorrow you're wondering which ones ended and which ones didn't, the ones that you can't work on anymore will be under the no late credit available. So you can look at that. Your scores in here should be under some kind of like grade. If someone wants to like share screen and Zoom, I can probably help you figure out where it is, but like from memory off the top of my head, I can't remember what it looks like, and no one's speaking up and helping out here. So William, if you want, you can come into Zoom and do like share screen, and I'll try to figure out where it is, but I don't remember off the top of my head. It shouldn't be hidden very much. You should be able to go in there and just look at your scores or grades or something, and it should show it to you. But for me, it's a little different because I have the teacher account view. Okay. Any other questions? So your practice test will be up today. Your final exam will come out later this week. Remember the way the final... Okay. Yeah, so I'm happy to look at it with you if you want after class, William. We can look, you can do like a share screen, and I'll go in and help you try to figure out where it is. But it's just hard because I don't remember what it looks like from the student view, but I can help you do that. So I'll have the practice test out today. The later exam will come out later this week. Let me remember. I think it's like the middle of next week when I want to be careful what I say, but I think the final is not right away, right? It's 10 a.m. Monday, nope, Tuesday, Thursday, 10 a.m. Tuesday. Yeah, that's what I thought. So it's the 14th till 12:15. So I'll set the due date for that. That means that the actual test will probably come out later this week, right? Once finals week has started. Remember with the test, the way it's going to work is you have a certain period of time to take the test, and then you have a certain period of time of which you can choose when to take the test. So in other words, there's 2 time frames. Your test will not be due until 12:15 on the 14th, right? Don't go a minute past that. It's not going to go well. But that's when the test is due. But it's kind of like if you ever rent something, you ever rented a movie from Amazon where like they're like, okay, you have 30 days to watch this rental, but once you start, you only have 48 hours to finish it. It's kind of that same idea. When you're going to have like a week to take the test almost, but once you start it, you're going to have a few hours to finish it. Okay, so it's not like you can work on it one day, come back the next day, work on it one day, come back the next, come back the next, come back the next. Once you start it, you have a few hours to finish it. Okay, and I think this is the class too where the settings were a little messed up last time because it just so happened that same week we had the midterm. My subscription to Delta Math ran out, but they didn't there was no notification or anything. I just started noticing that things weren't working right, and it took me a couple days to realize oh, I wonder if my subscription ended. So then I had to go in and resubscribe. But in the meantime, I think for this and my other algebra class, some of the settings were messed up because if you have the free version versus the paid version, then the testing options are different. So don't go, oh, I remember how testing was last time. I think for this class, those settings were messed up. So the testing scenario will be a little bit different. So what you want to do is pick a period of time when you know you're free, no one's going to be bothering you, you're not supposed to help, a sibling with their math homework, or you're not supposed to be whatever, training the dog or, whatever it is that your responsibilities are that you have. You don't have any of that. You just have, okay, I'm going to tell people I'm taking a test. They're going to leave me alone for a couple hours and I could just go focus on my math test, and no one's going to tell me to come eat dinner in the middle of my math test and stuff like that. pick a period of time where you're like, yeah, Wednesdays, I don't really have anything going on. So maybe at night, I'll put aside a couple hours and I'll get this test done. So pick a time. And then once you start it, just make sure you get it finished, because again, you can't come back the next day and work on it some more. You have like a timer starts once you start the test, and it's pretty generous. It's like many hours, multiple hours. But once you start that, you start to get a little bit, you're limited in the total number of hours that you can spend working on it. Okay. So basically just plan for a time that works for you without distractions. Sit down and work on it. The actual final exam will be shorter than the practice test. The practice test, you might think, man, this thing's kind of long. The final exam will not be that long. Okay, not nearly as long. The practice test is to get you practicing a bunch of these problems so that you remember how to do them, right? And that doesn't mean just because you can do the couple problems on the practice test or you got through them. What you really want to ask yourself is, do I actually know what's going on here? Could I do the problem when it comes up on the test? And if the answer is no, go back to the homework and look at those sections, right? Or whatever it is you need to do to spend some more time on those topics to get it right. Okay, so the final exam will be shorter. It will contain material from the entire course. Now, it will be more focused on material from the second half. Factoring, you're likely to see 5-6 problems on factoring, right? Because we have trinomial factors and factor by grouping and solving by factoring and all that kind of stuff. So probably see 5 or 6 problems related to factoring, few problems from each of the other chapters, and I am likely to go back and grab some problems from earlier in the semester that are basics that we need to make sure you know how to do it, right? It is bizarre when somebody, and this is not unusual, right? It happens every time I teach some of these high-level classes. You get somebody in applied calculus who can't graph a line. And it's like, wait, you're in applied calculus, but you don't know how to do a skill from the first thing you learn in beginning algebra? That doesn't make a lot of sense. So you're going to probably have to graph a line on the test. You're probably going to have to do some basics with lines, find the equation of the line through these points, and, understand slope and that kind of stuff. So I do reserve the right to pull questions from earlier in the semester, but the truth is I don't see the point. I'm not someone who sees the point in putting a ton of questions on the test. Now, you might have a lot of questions on the practice test, but probably not a ton of questions on the actual test. I mean, it's not going to be short, but I don't make it like unusually or excessively long or something like that. So, so keep that in mind. But for each basic chapter in the group or in the class, assume you're going to have a problem from there. Like we did systems of equations. You can be pretty sure you're going to have a systems of equations problem on the test, right? That's going to happen. So, if you go back and look at a chapter and go, oh, I wonder if he's going to ask a question from this chapter, right? This is another one of those habits I was talking about where students start trying to make predictions about what is and isn't going to be on the test. It's a bad habit. Just learn the material and then you'll be fine, right? Rather than gambling. Because if you go, oh, I wonder if he's going to have something from this chapter on the test. Yes, I am, right? Whichever chapter it is you're looking at, there will be some question on the final exam from that chapter, from every chapter, right? So it will be more emphasizing the second half of the course, but yeah, you're still going to have a systems of equations problem. You're still going to have to graph a line, deal with the equation of a line, stuff like that, okay? So that's kind of where the test is. Do your best to answer your questions properly. Pay attention to how you're submitting them and stuff like that, right? Because yeah, just make sure you're trying to get those points on there. You don't want to miss points because you hit a period after your answer on accident or something like that. So make sure all that kind of stuff is in there. And good job. Those of you who are still around, you worked hard this semester. By and large, most of you did a large quantity of the homework. Kind of stuck with it. So good job. Again, I mentioned this the other day. I do recommend that you take your next math class as soon as possible. In the spring, we do have the similar type course where it is a Math 3 course specifically for El Camino students. I recommend you take that, right? Especially since this class seems to be pretty successful for students. I would think the Math 3 version is probably a good group to be in, if you can help it. So I would highly recommend that you do that. I know sometimes people go, yeah, I hear what you're saying about skipping a math class, but next semester it's going to mess up my schedule. I really got to take this other class. I would strongly encourage you not to do that. We see it all the time, right? Where people wait a year and they don't remember anything from the previous course, and that's going to make Math 3 significantly harder. And the reality is math is the number one thing that keeps people from finishing college. It kind of sucks because we get like this bad rap. Everyone's, oh, math, you're always ruining everybody's stuff. Like, it's unfortunate that math is the thing that keeps a lot of people from finishing college, but it also means it's the thing that you should be focusing on the most to make sure that you complete those requirements, because once your math classes are out of the way, you're done. Right? So most of you need to take math, intermediate algebra. You need it for high school because it's like I believe it's a high school requirement still. But then many of you are only going to have to take statistics after that, and you can take statistics after you finish your intermediate algebra. So unless you're going into STEM, you're going into science or engineering or something like that where you're going to need a bunch of math, most of you will probably just end up taking statistics. So if you take intermediate algebra next semester and then hopefully in the fall take statistics, then you're done with math. Like no more math. Like for all of college, no more math, right? So I would encourage you to get that done. That would be great if you were completely done with your math, while still being in high school. That's great, because then that means the biggest hurdle that most people have to completing their college education, you've already finished that, which means the road in front of you will be less difficult than the other people that still have to fight their way through their math classes. So just a recommendation that we have overall. Let me read this really quick. Oh, okay. Sorry. There was a new note they put in this final exam schedule, which I hadn't seen before. So I just wanted to read it really quick, but that's all good. So that's kind of where we're at with things. So I don't have much more to say. So unless there's questions coming up, I'll probably close down the YouTube stream. And then anyone who wants to come address me with questions, come into Zoom, and I will talk to you about whatever you want to talk about. Obviously appropriate stuff, but come talk to me, and I'll wrap up any of those kind of questions or concerns or anything that you need to know to make sure that it looks to me like nearly everyone who is still trying is probably on track to pass the class, and even the like one or two people that are sort of trailing people still have the possibility of passing the class. So that's pretty good. We don't want anything to trip anybody up at this point, because I don't want to end up having to, I don't want to fail people any more than you want to be failed, right? So come talk to me, and I will clear up any questions you have. Otherwise, it's been a great class. I think you'll all probably do well in your Math 3 class. Just like I say, don't develop bad habits. Keep those good habits going. Strengthen those good habits. Make them better. And we'll see everybody later. Okay, thanks, everybody.